I'm Kelsey Zeiser with Light Reading, and we're here at OrbTV at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. I'm joined by Steve Brumer with 151 Advisors. Good to see you, Steve.
Thank you very much for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at 151 Advisors.
Excellent. So I've been in mobile communications for over 34 years. I'm one of the old godfathers of mobile, they say, to people around the world. But we've been doing wireless communications through, from distributors to resellers to all those things across the board. But 151 Advisors is an international strategy and execution firm. We help companies monetize and commercialize their products and services in the connected world. And what that means is that we like seeing companies that build really great, disruptive, new technology, but a lot of times they don't know where to sell it or how to put it together. And so that's what we focus in our entire world, is figuring out how to make money with this stuff.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And looking at IoT, what are some of the biggest challenges the industry and service providers are facing, as far as we talked a bit about integration, education, and security? So what are some of those?
You just stole all three of them? That's a lot.
Yeah, so you could build on that, what some of those challenges are.
So I would say in 2018, some of the things that we have been focused on is the three things that we believe are causing slowness in the growth of the IoT business, and that has been education. And it's education, a lack of education, whether it's from a consumer side or the B2B side. Consumer side, just walk into one of the stores like a Best Buy or a Lowe's or a Home Depot or an Apple store and ask one of the salespeople in the t-shirts what they do around IoT or connected home. And it's very difficult for them to answer, and it's very confusing for the consumer that's going there, considering that over 50% of the people that buy consumer IoT products are women, and also in that older age group. On the enterprise side, we have a lot of education to do for customers. A lot of times we neglect understanding that the customer's problem is the number one issue and working our way backwards, because what's easy is the networks, the modules, the sensors. You can get those almost everywhere in a platform, but it's a little bit more difficult to understand. Integration is hard. I don't know if you have a home automation kit where you are, but I got to put a Nest thermostat together with a Ring.com, with a sensor, with...
I have run into some challenges.
Who's going to put it all together?
Right.
And I think the idea that we're going to voice activation with Alexa and Siri to be able to help you do those things is going to change dramatically the way we look at the landscape. And then the integration on the side of enterprise and construction, or anything on the commercial side, very, very difficult to figure out, because you got 550 plus platforms to decide on. You have networks, you have different ones that have different nuances, and it's a very hard thing to do. So we have to figure out a way to integrate better on the enterprise side. And then the last thing is security. I think we're one breach away. We had Target breach in the United States, and that caused us to have chips put on all of our credit cards and debit cards. What are we waiting for on the consumer side to understand that security issues and hacks are going to happen on the consumer IoT side, and we have to address that. And on the enterprise side, it's a huge issue that has to be addressed. And I think those are my three pet peeves for the 2018 marketplace.
Okay, and building off of those security challenges, what do you see as some of the biggest security challenges, both for manufacturers and also for service providers?
The idea that I just recently did a keynote on security and IoT, and I asked the audience, tell me how many different security products and applications or services do you have per project? Like, what do you, when you roll it out? The average was somewhere between 2 to 3 different security things done in order to be safer, to be able to send the data from one end to the other, whether it's hardware, software, network layers. And so how do you manage all that? So I think there's an issue that we're trying to figure out is there one way of being able to do it totally? Carriers will say they got it covered. Platform guys say they have it covered, applications do the same, and even some hardware companies are now doing encryption or encrypted data between hardware products. So I think there's a confusion as to figuring out how to do it easily, and I don't see that happening right away.
Okay, so we've got some time.
We have some work to do on the security side.
That makes sense. And what are some of the biggest opportunities looking at data analytics for IoT? With so much data available, how can the analytics side be improved, and what's going on there?
Well, there's two aspects of that. One is that we're finding that a lot less data in IoT is being analyzed than we think. And the numbers have been 15%, 20%, or whatever that number is, it's definitely not a lot. And so we have to figure out, okay, that's great. We're using that to build ROI cases and to look at that data and helping customers with whatever the problems and needs are that they're trying to solve with IoT. But what about all that other data? What are we going to do with it? Is there more to do? Is there more analytics that can be used using that data that's not looked at to make decisions on a daily basis? What do we do with that? And who owns that data? I mean, we've talked about the idea that you have this data, but is it yours for the house? Do you own that data? If it's in my connected car, do I own it because well, no, wait a second, I lease the car, so is it Ford Motor Company's data? So then we start to understand who owns that data, what can you do with that data, and what it's good for me.
Okay, that makes sense. And looking ahead at 5G deployments, how will that and efforts around edge computing have an impact on narrowband IoT, for example?
That's a great question, and I think you're looking at 5G changing the landscape, but maybe not necessarily as much as NB-IoT will do for the IoT world from a carrier perspective. I think we're seeing unbelievable plans coming out. T-Mobile in the United States just announced a $6 a year NB-IoT rate plan, 50 cents a month. Really? It's it's a race to zero. And then I was at the GSMA summit on IoT on Sunday, and the Deutsche Telekom gentleman announced a €10 lifetime rate plan for NB-IoT. So you start to look at pricing and you look at what you can do with some of that. It's an incredible opportunity long term. And 5G has its place, but I think 5G is being more touted on what are we going to do as consumers in the video and the amount of data that's there. But you bring up edge, and I think edge is going to be a driving force of changing the marketplace in the sense that if we can get decisions made out on the edge where you are not necessarily having to worry about latency going back and forth over the cloud to make those decisions, and those decisions are done accurately on the edge. We have a lot of big companies that are trying to get involved in the edge because they know how important it is in order for us to scale. We're never going to get to 20 billion, 50 billion, or whatever the number is today without edge computing being a huge part of the ability of those sensors and things on the outside of the circle being able to communicate to an edge device and make those decisions based on what the sensors are telling them. So edge is a huge opportunity long term.
Okay. And anything else you wanted to share as far as focus for 151 advisors at this year's show, or some key takeaways that you've had from the show?
I've been lucky enough over the last several years with GSMA to be running the showcase stage over in Hall 4. It's an opportunity for companies to showcase their capabilities within 10 minutes. We give them 10 minutes to get their spiel out, and it's pretty fun to be able to see some of the new things that are there. So 151 has been selected to do that for the last several years, and hopefully a lot more longer term than that. I would say that we're still a very viable organization at 151 because we only focus in on how to make money in the space. And so many great technology companies who are being invested by VCs and private equity firms and investment banks are looking at these companies saying, you got great technology, now how are you going to make money and what's my return on investment? And so I think while our company is focused in on that, it helps everybody within the ecosystem of that company to be able to understand how they're going to make money. So it's all about monetization, commercialization for us going forward, and we've been doing very, very well. It's been fun.
Great. Well, it's been a real pleasure, Steve. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. It's a great opportunity to be here.